Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome if you're new. Thank you for taking time out of your day to check the video out. We have more PlayStation news, rumors, and leaks to go over and cover today. And we're starting with, I would say, a pretty significant one where Stellar Blade 2 was just pretty much casually announced, or at least confirmed. This is coming from PlayStation Lifestyle. They say Stellar Blade was a surprise hit when it launched for PS5 last year, so it's not surprising that developer Shift Up is planning on releasing a sequel. However, fans will be happy to hear that the company plans to release the game sooner than many might think. In a recent presentation document from Shift Up, the company shares tons of updates, including quarterly revenue breakdowns for its IP, industry trends, highlights from its IP, and a lot more. One slide that fans will probably find the most interesting is the one showing a release timetable beginning with Stellar Blade's PS5 release in 2024. Although a specific date is not detailed, the slide reveals that the company is planning to launch Stellar Blade 2 between now and 2027. The slide is unclear as to whether this timeline is through 2027 or ends at the start of 2027. Regardless, it seems Stellar Blade 2 is planned for a 26-27 release. Of course, this window can certainly move around, development timetables change, and delays happen regularly. It would not be surprising if the sequel did not end up hitting this broad release window. Additionally, Shift Up's Project Witches also is pictured in the slide. Specifically, it seems the company's next IP will launch sometime after Stellar Blade 2. It may be safe to assume it is planned for 2027 currently. So this is something that I saw a lot of people excited about yesterday because, yeah, it's just kind of right there, right? Shift Up just casually makes it known that we are planning on doing a Stellar Blade sequel. Now, they do have like a brand new IP that, as the article says, they're going to launch after that called Project Witches. But I do wonder when it comes to Stellar Blade 2 how they're going to handle that. We know that Sony published Stellar Blade 1, but Sony does not own the Stellar Blade IP, and this game did very, very well. And so, I could imagine Sony probably wanting to try to do something considering the success of this title. And I could see Shift Up being open to that just because, Sony was a big believer in them. But either way, we do know that there are now a lot of Stellar Blade fans on PlayStation that will absolutely be here for the launch of the sequel. Moving on to the next topic, we have some, what I think is honestly just great news coming from Housemarque. This is being reported by Gaming Bolt. It says, in the wake of Sony canceling live service projects and dealing with troubled titles like Fair Games and Marathon, Returnal developer Housemarque has reaffirmed its commitment to single-player and premium games. The studio head spoke to Eurogamer during the studio's 30th anniversary event. Our philosophy is that our games are an experience for a certain time of your life, and you experience that within a few days or weeks or whatever. They're comparable to movies or TV series available during a certain phase, and I believe that's really cool. You don't need to spend the rest of your free time on our games. It's a unique experience. You have it, you get something out of it, maybe you come back to it, but you don't need to play it for the rest of your life. Housemarque is fully focused on single-player and premium titles, which includes the upcoming Saros. He also went on to ensure that the studio will continue to make, quote, amazing games for another 30 years. You just need to keep creating special games. And the brand director chimed in saying, we are only as strong as our latest game. It's almost like a responsibility. We're very lucky to be in the position we are in, and we should keep pushing the medium, keep showing what we can do, keep pushing our gameplay, our story, and our technology, and just keep growing. That's the future for the next 30 years. It's just creating better. So I wanted to take a moment to cover this because, it's true that there's been some not so great news coming out of Sony's live service endeavors. A lot of people calling into question like some of the decisions that these studios are making, like we see with Marathon and, Fair Games and stuff like that. And so to have Housemarque just kind of come out and firmly state that, yeah, we're a single player development studio. We're always going to be that. We're going to continue to be that. We don't expect you to play our games for the rest of your life. We're not trying to consume all of your time and make our games the only games you play. And they just get it. They absolutely get it. And hopefully this is a philosophy that more studios at PlayStation adopt. I mean, most of them, I think, already have this philosophy, which is good, but still something that I think is worth highlighting. Moving on to the next topic, we have potentially an update. Now, it's a rumor. We have to take it with a grain of salt for Media Molecule's new IP. I came across this on the Gaming Leaks and Rumors subreddit, and it says Media Molecule job posting may indicate the deadline/launch of the next game being late 2026 or early 2027. There have been multiple job postings at Media Molecule in recent months, with contract lengths of 12 to 18 months, coalescing around the end of January 2027. My speculation would be that this could indicate a release date prior to or shortly after this date. Older postings on the Media Molecule website are not easily visible, but LinkedIn posts from the lead recruiter at PlayStation Studios also have other postings such as senior producer, senior sound designer, senior game designer, all ending in January 2027. Now, they say this may just be a coincidence, as 12 to 18 month contracts and contracts ending at the end of the year are obviously typical lengths in hiring practices across plenty of industries. So, yeah, this is, I think, just more of a reminder that Media Molecule, a studio we haven't heard from in a very, very long time, a couple of years ago, they basically came out and said, we're done supporting Dreams, we're moving on, and we did cover the fact that a new IP was greenlit for them. So Sony's giving them like another opportunity. There was like some fear that maybe they were going to get shut down, but no, Sony's giving them another opportunity to make a brand new game. And the idea of this game, needing to be ready by, late 2026 or early 2027, I think actually makes complete sense. Like I said, it's been a very long time since Media Molecule has produced anything. And so, Sony, I think, is going to give them a certain time frame, a fair time frame, and they're probably keeping this scale and the scope of this game, to a medium size, maybe smaller size, which I think makes sense for Media Molecule. I think a lot of people are hopeful that they will be able to come back. Obviously, they're known for Little Big Planet. Dreams could have been something big, but it just didn't work out, and so I think that there's obviously a lot of talent at that studio, and it'll be really interesting to see what they end up coming up with, but it does seem like right now we might be looking at like a late 2026, early 2027, time frame for this game to launch. Moving on to the next topic, we have yet another Microsoft title being just casually announced for PlayStation 5, which, again, this is something that is unsurprising at this point, but that game is Senua's Saga Hellblade 2 Enhanced, so it's going to be some kind of enhanced edition. But yeah, we did get rumors about this game coming to PS5 a while ago, and they're saying it's coming this summer. They haven't given us like any concrete details yet about like what this enhanced version will entail or a specific release date. I assume we're going to be getting those details very soon, but yeah, if you're somebody who is a fan of Hellblade 1, you maybe played it on PS4, the sequel is going to be coming very soon. But we're going to move on to the next topic here, which is an interesting rumor/report coming from Windows Central's Jez Corden. Now, a lot of people don't really consider him like a reliable insider, so I'm just going to say take this with a grain of salt, but it is interesting because we're hearing a lot of different rumors right now about what Microsoft is going to do with the next generation Xbox hardware. And to simplify all the rumors and condense them, basically what you need to know is Microsoft is essentially going to be releasing a PC that will have like a console shell over it. So for all intents and purposes, it's going to be a PC, and they're going to try to just make it seem like it's the same as a console, but it's really not. This is why we're hearing that Steam is actually going to be available on this hardware, and that's like the big thing, right? The idea of Steam being available on this next generation Xbox PC hardware, it makes people wonder, what Sony's going to do potentially, because what we may end up seeing is a box released by Microsoft with the Xbox logo on it that ships with a controller. It will essentially be a PC, and you can run Steam on it, and in turn you will be able to play any PlayStation games that are available on Steam. So Jez Corden is claiming that Sony can block their games from appearing on Microsoft's rumored Xbox/PC hybrid. Now, just for some context, Jez Corden did a whole write-up on this next generation Xbox PC hybrid, basically saying what Microsoft is going for, what they're planning on doing. And he says, I know for a fact PlayStation can do this if they feel inclined, so keep expectations in check is my only message. And there's also a link here to something he said a couple months back where he basically was saying the same thing, that Sony can block this if they want. And this has caused a lot of back and forth, because most people are in disagreement, saying that if Steam is available on this device, it's within Steam's guidelines that, like, essentially Sony's not allowed to do this. Nobody's allowed to do this. You're not allowed to just, like, block your games if they're on the storefront and, like, pick and choose. You would have to remove yourself from Steam and remove all of your games off of Steam and basically delist everything. Now, in my opinion, Sony's not going to do this. Okay, like, I know there's, like, the idea that, well, oh man, you know, having certain PlayStation games available to play on Xbox, Sony would never allow that. But I think the reality is, like, this next Xbox is basically going to be a PC, and I don't think it's going to be a threat in any way, shape, or form to the PlayStation 5 or the PlayStation 6. It's just going to be an alternative option for people who want it. And I think at the end of the day, you know, Sony is probably just going to see that as an opportunity where, like, okay, yeah, sure, if you want to buy The Last of Us 1 or 2 or whatever on this device, and we get a 70% cut from that because you're doing it through Steam, you know, it's actually just really weird because, like, Microsoft would get nothing. That's kind of the awkward part here for Microsoft, is, like, if somebody were to buy this Xbox device and then they buy these Sony games, Sony gets 70%, you know, Steam gets 30%, and Microsoft gets 0%. So there's really nothing in it for Microsoft. And you could maybe make the argument that it would make the hardware more appealing, but I would argue probably not, because the hardware that they're trying to put out there already exists in the form of gaming PCs that you can buy or build right now. So yeah, I don't think it's going to really matter if they can or cannot block their games. I just honestly don't see Sony doing it. But anyway, I just wanted to keep you guys, you know, up to date with all of these rumors and what's going on. It'll be really interesting to see how it plays out. That's going to do it for the video. If you enjoyed it, leave it a like, subscribe if you're new, hit the bell notification icon, and feel free to share this video out on top of all that. But until next time, guys, take care.